Hello everyone, welcome to part 27 of this series. Now that Traversal is out, we can continue where we left off. In the first video, we'll keep it simple, but make some of those Cinti assets a lot more interesting. Before we start, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. This scene will be made available on Patreon. I'd like to run through what we're actually doing here. So we're continuing where we left off last time, but we're introducing some Cinti assets that, fit well with the world. But now that Traversal is out, we actually can really use them properly. So as you can see, this is a quick tower made with the Polygon Knights pack. And the nice thing with this pack is that a lot of these models, including the walls and, as you can see, the towers, have these slightly lighter bricks on them. And basically, they just ask to be, used for traversal, which is really cool. It's just absolutely perfect, really. You don't really have to do much yourself. So that's really cool. A couple of changes will need to be made when it comes to the colliders, but we'll get to that. And then next up, I thought it would be really cool to finally use the houses that we have in the Fantasy Kingdom bundle the right way. So this is one of those houses, for example. And as you can see, really cool. But, one of the problems was, we couldn't use ladders. They were just there cosmetically so far. And now that Traversal is out, we can actually start using those ladders as well. And honestly, it's just really cool. I'm really happy about this because especially in the Fantasy Kingdom one, there's loads and loads of houses that have ladders, and it was something we just couldn't use before. Now, in order to make all of this work, the project needed to be updated to 2019.4.11 as well, which is a good thing. So I made sure it is completely updated. The latest version of Game Creator, Traversal, obviously, and every module is updated. So this might help some people who had some compatibility issues with the scene as I published on Patreon, as I was still on 2019.3.9. So this latest scene should work for everyone unless you're on some beta version, of course. But it's completely up to date. Modules are up to date. Unity version is up to date, so this should be working for everyone. And obviously this latest scene has everything else we did before included, so you're not missing out on anything here. So let's get started. So here we are back in our scene. So first things first, let's get started with our tower. And, we can place this wherever we want. We can even have it, close to here, so we actually have like a sort of lookout tower, which could be pretty cool. So let's look up what we need. So I'm going to pick them from Fantasy... What is it? Polygon Knights. There we go. Prefabs, and then go to buildings, and inside of buildings we're going to pick the towers, and we're going to start off with the first base. So let's put it in here. And no, this base might not be totally necessary, but it's I don't know, it's just slightly easier. So for now, I'm just going to set the snapping of progress to 1 just to make it easier to place. There we go. And we'll pick the next one. So I'm gonna go with 2, this one. Now, one thing I want to highlight here is that if you have the same pack, you will have the light and the normal one. Now the light, as you can see, doesn't have any of the bricks, and the bricks is actually what we want to use here. So I definitely recommend picking those. I'm going to duplicate this one twice, and don't worry, we'll do the placement right. And I think it's 4 that I had as well. There we go. Okay, this might be a tiny bit high, so I'll remove one. Might be a bit too much otherwise. There we go, and we'll pick the first top. And again, the important thing here is that we make sure we actually pick the one that has the bricks. Perfect. So now let's make sure it all aligns perfectly. So this first one is fine. I'm not even going to move that. So I'm going to change this to 0.05. And that's a bit small, but I want to make sure, it fits properly. There we go. So that's the first one. It's the second one. And yeah, we don't actually have to do that much. It's all fitting pretty well. Cool. So that's good. So next thing we're going to do is, and I'm going to create an empty here just to make it slightly simpler. So I'll just call this, no, let me do that again. So let me look up the base here, and I'm going to put an empty in there. So we know the placement is the same as the base. That will just make it slightly easier for aligning later on. And we'll name this tower. Drag all of these in. And perfect, there we go. So now when we select the tower, our snapping point is the base, and that's a nice alignment to have. So that's good. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick some prefabs from the Traversal module. So let's go to, dear God, I have too many assets. We're gonna go to Traversal Prefabs, and I'm going to go with hold braced on well, all of them in this case. I think braced is, just makes more sense. It's the good one to have. So we'll pick this one as the first one. I'll simply duplicate it and drag it higher, and duplicate it again, drag it here. And we'll do a ledge braced as well. And yeah, it's about right. Let me turn on those gizmos. And obviously the important thing here is, is going to be alignment. So, as you can see, these can see each other, which is the important part. This can see each other, and this as well. We'll drag ledge brace, we'll duplicate it, put it here as well. And yeah, this is going to be important. Obviously, there's quite a gap here. So you can either place more of them or just make sure these can connect. So I'm just going to do it like this, which I'm fine with. And we'll move this one up as well. Technically, you don't even need this one. You can just go to the mantle straight away, but that's fine. So we'll pick mantle ledge as well, which is going to be this one. And yeah, right at the end. There we go. Cool. Now, obviously, if you want to do this right, you'll duplicate them and place them all over on all of the light bricks, for example. If you want to make it obvious which ones are climbable, which I really like, it's just a fortunate coincidence that these work so well. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it to this one. You know what to do if you if you want to elaborate it. Now, the important part here is going to be the mesh collider, unfortunately. So as you can see, we have a mesh collider, and it's it's set to convex, and even if you turn it off, it's not really going to fix anything. And basically, we'd walk on top of it, and we wouldn't actually be inside of this little area. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that mesh collider. Let me actually unpack the prefab so we don't save anything. So then next up, I'm going to add a couple of box colliders. So I'll start off with one, and you can copy over these settings. I've tried them out. I've seen, tried what matches. So yeah. And 38, and there we go. So yeah, as you can see, I obviously have done this before to try it out, and this this aligns perfectly for the edges. So pick these sizes. We'll add another one, which is going to be 1 as well. 1.38, 0.3, 1.3, and 1.8. And then we have the other side. I think this was the minus this time. So 1.8, 1.3, and 0.3. There we go. Perfect as well. And then the next one is going to be minus, oh no, 0 on this one, 1, and minus, no, just 1.38, 1.8, 1.3, and 0.3. There we go. Yeah, you can perfect it by doing the edges as well. I'm going to skip that for now, but you can. And we'll add one more box collider, which is going to be the floor. Again, I've already tried this out. 2.4, and I think this was 0.3. Yeah, and there we go. So aligns pretty well. Could be a bit lower, but it's pretty good. And basically, we can now actually, enter this area. There's no longer a collider that's blocking us, and it's perfectly aligned with the edges, so it will look good. So pretty awesome. Then, yeah, we have all of our objects here, and there's not really much we have to do here. Yes, we need to move all of them a bit, just to make sure everything is connected. So if you're placing more, just remember that, you have to do that just to make sure everything connects the right way. Now this is all connected, so we're good there. This wasn't. This is connected, and yeah, this is connected as well. So we're all good here. Everything's connected. So I'm going to create a new empty here. Don't need to. I'm just going to call this model. Drag in all of the tower elements. There we go. And everything else I'll just drag in here. Perfect. And I'm going to collapse all of these. And when it comes to geometry, I'm not going to remove it because it might be useful. You never know if you want to move it around. So I'm just going to disable it. And that's it. Tower completed. So yeah, it's not a lot. So we'll give this a go, and we'll see if this is all working as should. So let's move up to our tower. Now I've only done the one side, and in this case we still have jumping on, so we can actually jump a bit higher. It's just not enough to actually reach it though. So yeah, and yeah, there we go. And now you can move all of these to make it a tiny bit better in terms of the grabbing points, but pretty cool. All working, and we can actually climb this tower now, which is really awesome. So I personally really like this type of freedom. Zelda does it as well, slightly differently, but there's obviously climbing in Zelda. It's free climbing, which has some downsides in my opinion. When you're creating a level, when you have free climbing, it's a lot more difficult to actually restrict some movement or to make the puzzle side of it a bit more interesting. So I actually really do appreciate that it's done the way it is. Now, next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a house from Fantasy Kingdom. And normally you'd go to prefabs, and in this case, I'm not going to do that. So let me save this first. And we're going to go in scenes, and we're going to pick this scene. So demo layout houses with interiors. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to go to 9B, which is this one. And the reason I'm picking these is because in this scene, as you can see, there's a ton of prefabs in here. By the way, if you are going to make this for mobile or develop for mobile, pay attention, since the assets may be low poly in look, but they're not really low poly, so something to keep in mind. So I'm going to pick this house from this scene, and the difference with the prefab one is that, well, these have interiors and are completely made. Now the optimized ones, which are the ones you can find in prefabs as well, are just different. They are optimized to have a lot of houses in there, but they're not houses you could actually enter, for example. These are houses you can enter and already, well, as you can see, let me turn off gizmos, have a full interior inside, which is really, really cool. Obviously, these are all just separate prefabs, so you can change it to whatever you want. Now I'm going to pick this house, I'm going to copy it over, and yeah, this should become its own prefab, really. All of these should have just been their own prefabs, but that's okay. So we're going to copy this over, and we're going to go to our scene again. Cool, so here we are. And what I'm going to do is a bit odd, but I'm going to place it here. There we go. Just so I can easily find it, and now I'll move it out again. So yeah, I'll just rename this to, I don't know, base house, whatever, doesn't really matter. And we'll place it, yeah, here. Here is actually good. Cool, that's pretty decent. I'm going to lower this quite a bit, and the reason for that is simply because the stairs, there's, you know, as fun as they are, if they're not necessary, it's better to not use it. Obviously, we'll move everything around a bit, so we're not going to have a horse inside. I'm actually going to be removing this crate. I'm going to put the book inside, and the reason for that is because there's, you know, nice little thing here with a couple of books, so why not just have it to place the book inside as well. So I'll remove this one. Here we go. So pick up fireball spell. I'm going to move this. And there we go. Let me turn this off for just a second. And perfect. Or just not, I don't know. There we go. So all good. So that's the fireball spell. Now make sure you select these pickups, not the actual item inside. So pickups and those two crates, and we'll move these a bit. We don't actually have to move them a lot. Yeah, they're actually fine the way they are. So I'm going to move this as well. There we go. That's pretty good. And where's that horse? Again, make sure you select the parent and not the child, because otherwise all of the things we've placed will be gone. So there's the marker. That's good. And yeah, there's our horse. Oh. I will actually be doing another video on the horse, and we're going to do something entirely different. So that'll be interesting. I'm going to attempt to basically make a way better version of the way the horse is currently. As right now, it does function, but it doesn't function the way I'd like it to function. So going to give that a try. Now on the inside, the interior, it's a bit full, so I'm going to remove these two. You don't have to, but it's a bit full right now. We're lucky when it comes to the colliders. They're all good, and we don't actually need to change any of it. So that's really nice. We're going to go into our our plugins folder again. So plugins, game creator, traversal, and we're going to pick our ladder. Yeah, let's make sure gizmos is turned on. I'm going to turn this back on as well. Perfect. As you can see, there's honestly tons of prefabs inside. It's all separate. That's why they have prefabs for the optimized versions, which is mostly going to be intended for mobile. There's just way too many objects in here for mobile. It's just cost performance issues. So there we have it. I'm not going to remove any of these things or whatever. All I'm really going to do is I'm going to change a couple of things here. So let's go down. And so as you can see, we have this endpoint, and I'm going to lower this. And I'm going to lower it. No, that's too low. Yeah, this is fine. Perfect. So this is a change here. Let me just unpack this prefab as well. Unpack, there we go. So we have this one. Can drop is going to be turned on. And we're going to move the mental high as well, and the trigger above. Now we're selecting these at the same time simply because these need to be aligned. And as you can see, they're aligned with the top part as well. So perfect. And that's literally it. Geometry turned off, and there we go. So let's give this, let's hit save first, and let's give this a go. So let's go up to our house. Now the building, the tower works fine, so we're good there. It's really nice, and there we have the house, and it's a good looking house. Everything else is still the same. We just moved it around a bit. As you can see, we can enter. The book is placed there on the shelf, so really nice as well. And we can use the ladder to go up, and that's it. That's literally it. As you can see, the mesh colliders are fine. That's because they were all separate prefabs with their own colliders, which, yeah, it works the way it should. So really, really cool. Yeah, this is always something that bugged me a bit. You have all of these really cool models in the Cinti assets, but especially in the Fantasy Kingdom ones, there's just so many with ladders, and there's so many buildings you couldn't really do all that much with. I think there's a type of bar or tavern, whatever it's called as well. And same thing, it's multiple floors, you have ladders to go up, and you couldn't really use it. And this is really how simple it is to make all of those buildings really usable. I think it's honestly incredibly cool. There's, you just have to do so little in order to make it work. So yeah, really, really happy about that. Traversal definitely is a game changer here. So that's it for this video. I know it's a rather short one, but it's just type of an introduction of what we can do with Traversal in this environment, and especially with the Cinti assets. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.